everyone, and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show, where I help you spend your wine dollars wisely. August is Washington Wine Month. This is the second Washington Wine Month. I think I mentioned this before, but it's like the one that I seem to forget about. I mean, I've embraced it. I used to why do we really need two Washington wine months? I live in Washington. I love Washington wine. Actually, I like wine from all over the world, but I do like Washington wine. I support it. I kind of started understanding, why not promote Washington wines more than once a year? The original Washington Wine Month was in March. They added August. I'm not sure which year they added August, but it became another Washington Wine Month. So why not do a couple of episodes featuring Washington wines? And why not start with my buddies here from San Juan Island? Now, San Juan Vineyards right now is going through a little bit of a difficult time finding a winemaker since Chris Premise left. But this is Chris Premise's wine that he made in 2012. I've been excited to try this because 2012 was a great vintage. And San Juan Vineyards, of course, is a small winery. Sources its fruit from places that probably are not the premier wine grapes of Washington. But when there's a good vintage, it doesn't matter as much if it's not a premier grape site. You get good fruit across the board. In 12, there was a lot of good fruit out there, and so they got their hands on some good stuff. So I'm good friends with Yvonne. I always find it very difficult to do these episodes because I say it like it is. And if the wines don't show, I'm going to say it like it is. So, we're good friends. I like her a lot. She's a very hardworking person. She's done a lot with that winery, promoting it, marketing, delivering, all that stuff. She's very passionate about her winery. I know she has it up for sale. So if there's anybody out there that watching this is interested in winery, it's a beautiful location. They've a well-established tasting room. They're a very busy place. And right now she has a intern winemaker that, hopefully things work out with him. His name is also Chris. Haven't met him yet. So we're going to get started right off with the San Juan Vineyards 2012 Cabernet Franc, Washington State. Yeah. Obviously. I'm doing a Washington wine episode, Washington State, San Juan Vineyards, 2012 Cabernet Franc, Horse Heaven Hills. And Horse Heaven Hills is quite the appellation these days. Here's your label. Thank Susie for letting me use her place. I've done an episode here before, and I just taken an opportunity to do one again out here at Susie's place. Nice. I like this. I like this spit bucket. Not as much as the Seahawks one, of course, but it's very cool. She makes some sort of English pudding dessert out of that. So let's set that over here. Let's see what we get on the nose. Chris Premise, I think I mentioned in the past, loves to do Cab Franc. It's one of his favorite varietals, and I've always loved his Cab Franc. A lot of tobacco on the nose, a lot of red flowers. It's kind of earthy. Get a little bit of bark action, currants and cherries. A little bit of interesting kind of barbecue spice thing, kind of like briquettes and, like the drippings of barbecue on briquettes, if that makes any sense. A little bit of licorice coming through too. I like the nose. Let's see what we get on the palate. I like the structure on this wine. It has smooth tannins, but there's a little chalky element to it that I like. Gives a little bit of attitude on the palate. The tobacco comes through really nice. I get a little bit of a chocolate tone to it, which is kind of interesting. I find that interesting because I know they don't use a lot of oak, if any. I know he used barrels that didn't have any oak influence on them. They were neutral barrels. This definitely has chocolate tones to it. I get currants, a little bit of black plum coming through, which I find intriguing. If you like Bordeaux, you know what I'm talking about. This is a Bordeaux style. I know it's only one grape, varietal, Cab Franc. I'm not sure if you put anything else in there. It doesn't indicate it on the label. Very earthy, bark, tobacco, black plum, currants, but that's not the predominant part of this wine. It definitely shows the savory side a lot more. It's a very savory wine. I get a little bit of a hit of white pepper on the finish, indicative of the grape. Sometimes it can do that, but it's not prominent. It lingers a little bit. This is a very, very, how would I say it? Wine for those who want old world, but I think even new world wine lovers will like it because it's not harsh. There's not a lot of weird things going on with this wine. It's very straightforward, but very earthy. Get a little, now, there you go, Cab Franc. Get a little bit of, there it was right at the end after I swallowed it, a little bit of green bell pepper, asparagus thing going on the back side, a little bit of that green action, but not a huge amount. The only thing I would say about this wine is it's a little bit thin, not entirely thin. It is very feminine, I'll give it that. So you got to be careful with that word thin. I would say it's more feminine, would be a better way to phrase it. I'm going to go B- on this wine. I think it's very good. I think it's above average. I think it's a little bit, I'm going to throw in the word thin on the finish a little bit, on the back of the mid and finish. But it's a very good wine. Very, not very good. I don't want to get carried away. It's a good wine. And it's 19 bucks. I think right now we have a deal going on at the store for 14. For $14, it's an absolute excellent wine. For 19, you could probably find quite a few wines out there, maybe even Cab Franc. But that's still, if you look at Cab Francs from Washington State, they tend to be quite a bit more. I have quite a few Cab Francs on the shelf from Washington in the mid-20s to $30 range. So this is a fair price for this wine. I'm going to go B-. I think it's a solid effort. And I think those of you who like Bordeaux, like your wine's a little more feminine, not in your face, bam, not high alcohol. This is a good choice. I think this would go with a lot of different foods. Hot dogs, pizza, fajitas. It would go with a lot of different things. Grilled steak would be excellent with it. It would also, it's feminine enough to go with, let's say, some fish. Salmon would be a nice choice for this one because the tannins aren't harsh. For those of you who don't know, Cab Franc and Sauvignon Blanc are what make Cabernet Sauvignon. So this is like the parent, one of the parents of Cabernet Sauvignon. And it's become quite popular in Washington State to do Cabernet Franc. They do it quite well. Now, my own opinion, I know Chris would disagree with me, the winemaker who made this. I like a little bit of oak on my Cab Franc. I think Cab Franc marries well with oak. It adds some characteristic. You can't overdo it, or it'll turn into a vanilla mocha milkshake. But, you know, still an excellent job for what he had to work with, and I like it, B-. Let's move on. Give it a little rinse. It's a beautiful day here in Washington State. My tomato plants, our tomato plants out back are going crazy. I think Susie counted 32 on one plant and 40 on the other plant. That's not including the heirlooms that are starting to show some fruit right now. Excited about that. I love fresh tomatoes. This is the San Juan Vineyards 2012 red wine, Horse Heaven Hills. And this, I believe, is a blend of Cab Merlot, Cab Franc. We did a little backup on its own. Wow. All right. Let's give it a little smell here, see what's on the nose. This one, now that's very curious, this one shows more vegetal on the nose than the Cab Franc did, which is surprising. Getting a little licorice and like I said, asparagus, Brussels sprout, green bell pepper. Definitely dark cherries are coming through, but it's not a prominent part of the nose. Red flowers like a little bit of rose petal and violet kind of combined. Not as aromatic as the Cab Franc, so I'm curious let's see what we get on the palate. Just before I get into tasting this wine though, I was thinking before I did this episode, you know, a lot of people might want to know what's your favorite Washington State wines, and I think in the you know, mid-range to value category, I'd have to go with Milbrandt Vineyards. I think they're an excellent winery. Even Chateau Ste. Michelle, a shout out to Chateau Ste. Michelle, by the way, for being the winery that really catapulted Washington State wines into the limelight. You know, they still produce a lot of wines. I know they get a little bit of a bum rap for being a big winery, but I'll tell you what, they really are very, very conscious of helping other Washington wineries. They've bought some Oregon wineries. They just bought Pat's Hall down in Napa, and you know what? They just buy them and let them do what they were doing. So they kind of infuse money into the project. I really have a lot of respect for Chateau Ste. Michelle for what they do for Washington State wine. So they have a lot of you know, fairly inexpensive wines that do really go well. They have a lot of wineries under their umbrella that are also budget wines that do very well and are quite good, and they get a lot of good press. Columbia Crest is one of them. Gets a lot of good press. I think Milbrandt's a good one. I had a bunch in my mind. I mean, there's just so many great wineries. There's Sleight of Hand, Savaya with Rich Funk, great winery. Love his wines. I just had one of his Tempernios last night. Fantastic wine. Columbia Winery just got bought by Gallo. Really improved their label, and their wines are really good also. I like Trust Cellars. I like, oh my buddy, Tempest wines are absolutely phenomenal. There's just so many wineries out there that do really good. I'm sorry if I didn't mention yours. And even San Juan Vineyards here on the San Juan Islands, you know, for, you know, a small winery, they do really well. So let's see what we get on the palate with this red wine from San Juan Vineyards. Again, $19. Getting a little black tea on the nose. I just caught that. So let's see what we get on the palate. Excited about this wine, actually. This has a little bit more going on the palate. I get red berries, I get some plum, I get some currants, a lot of licorice on the finish, a lot of licorice on the finish. I like that. A little bit of vanilla coming through, which is curious because they don't, like I said, they don't use a lot of oak. Nice mid palate. I like that. It expands a bit on the mid palate. It hits you. Red flowers come through on the back of the mid palate into the finish where that licorice comes through. And I get that. It's kind of like a lingering licorice, red cherry, black cherry. Yeah, I like this wine. And it's fresh. That's another thing. What makes this wine kind of cool to me is that it's fresh. So this is a great food wine. You can pair it with grilled meats. You could pair it with fowl, chicken. You could pair it with pizza, you could pair it with hot dogs, you could pair it with hamburgers. I mean, it's just got that kind of nice thing. And the tannins are smooth once again, but they show just a little bit of grit to them, a little bit of attitude, which we like when we're drinking wine. We want some guts to it, you know. So I mean, not all of you. I understand that. Not all of you want that. Some of you like it, you know, to be a little bit less aggressive on the tannin side. But this does not have aggressive tannins at all. And then it just shows a little bit of that green tea vegetal characteristic on the back end, but it's hardly a prominent part of the wine. I think it's very balanced, very seamless. Nice wine. I like it a lot. I'm going to have to go BB plus on that one. It's not nearly, it doesn't have that thin action going on. It's a good wine. I'm proud of my backyard boys. Honestly, these are good wines for the money. Like I said, the Cab Franc at 18 bucks. It's a good value compared to what other wineries are charging. And this red wine, I think at times you'll find it for $14. So it's worth seeking out. For my homies here in Friday Harbor, I don't want to hear an attitude about San Juan Vineyards like they can't make good wine. They do make good wine, and Yvonne works very hard to produce some good product. Yeah, nice stuff. Thanks for watching. You keep watching, and I'll keep helping you spend your wine dollars wisely.